What's up my people, you're in the place for Triple D Conversation. My name is Tristan Deves and today we're going to be going over the Nighthowl combo. Now before, what I realized was you could obviously use Nighthowl as a recursion piece. Now it's very nice to bring something out of your graveyard on summoning your Nighthowl, but usually you'd want to utilize Nighthowl straight away to get him off the field, i.e. either as a tuner or as an Xyz monster. Now, what I noticed in my last video was obviously we had utilized Nighthowl, but we had also then forgotten his secondary effects, whereby fiend monsters themselves are the only monsters that can actually be summoned. So what we've got today is just a re-explanation of what we can do and how he's still utilized in the deck. So Nighthowl, Lamia, Savant Copernicus and Swellsime are the cards we're going to be using today for our hand pieces. So I'm going to stick them up there straight away. Now in our deck to utilize, we've got the Phantom Knights of Silent Boots as well for the PK package, a Necroslime, a Ragnarok, a Copernicus, another Copernicus, a Nighthowl, a Savant Kepler and a Lamia. Then we're going to be putting them straight there. In terms of our extra deck, we have Flame King Genghis, Cross Sheep, Gust King Alexander, Flame High King Genghis, Siegfried, Halqifibrax, Savage Dragon, a no-name Gilgamesh as per usual, and you have your Shooting Riser Dragon. Now, this gives you options. By utilizing Nighthowl, obviously with the same as the other combos, you still have the option to go into different pieces. Now, obviously we've seen FA Dawn Dragster before, but what happens with this card, as I have misexplained before, is instead of it negating a monster effect, it can only negate the spell, trap cards, or effect, which to me sounds like it can negate the monster effect as well. However, it's suggesting that it can only negate spell or traps, whilst also negating any face-up spell or traps. So although this gives us a little bit of variance as to what we can do with it, it doesn't give us the whole utilization of a full negate board. So what we're going to use today is some alternatives to FA Dawn Dragster. And my first alternative is Draco Berserker the Tenyi. If an opponent's monster activates an effect, you can quite frankly get rid of that opponent's monster. I don't think it's the most optimal play. You've then got your Time Lords, which is a very recent card that I've got, and I do like playing around with this, but I don't think it's the best play either. And then the last card that we have is the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. Now this card is an absolute beast. However, the downside to this combo is that even if you're getting this card onto the field, it doesn't make sense to do it this way because there are 3-card combos that can actually bring this guy out a lot faster. The only downside to that is you have to play a lot of other cards for it to work. The other downside that you do have is you're already setting up a spell and trap negate as well as a monster negate, which doesn't really make sense as to why you'd want King Calamity out on said turn, but I guess it can give you the ability to utilize the monster negate, utilize the spell trap negate, make your opponent think that they're safe, and then utilize Hot Red Dragon, Archfiend, King Calamity. So you do have the options there to bait out your opponent, which is quite nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep our extra deck up in this top left corner, as I feel like that's a nice positioning for it. So we're going to go straight into the video, straight into the combo. We're going to start off with a Swellsime Copernicus, straight to the grave, fusion summon for that Flame High King Genghis. You're then going to use Swellsime, special summoning the Nighthowl, triggering the effect of special summon Copernicus, sending to the grave a Necroslime. Once Necroslime hits the graveyard, you're going to normal summon that Lamia, go for the Flame King Genghis, into your Gust King Alexander, utilizing these two, going into your Cross Sheep, getting your Flame High King Genghis onto the field by fusion summoning these two to the grave, and then once you've got that, it's going to trigger effect of Gust King Alexander, bringing your Lamia back, going straight into that Curse King Siegfried, triggering the effect of the Flame High King Genghis, bringing back your Gust King Alexander. Then that's going to trigger the effect of your Cross Sheep, bringing back your Lamia to the field. Lamia and Cross Sheep are going to go together for Halqifibrax. Now you have options here. If you wanted to go into a level 10 monster, i.e. your Time Lord, you're going to want at this point to send your Nighthowl to the field. But if you don't want to go into your Time Lord, you're just going to go for that Lamia because it gives you more options. Now I'll show you both options depending on what you would have done. And once you've gone for your Lamia to the field, it's going to be Lamia and your Gust King Alexander. It's going to straight up give you that equip for the Cross Sheep. Once you've equipped Cross Sheep to borrow loads, you're then going to go for a Link Summon of no-name Gilgamesh. You've instantly won, your opponent's in awe, they're like, damn, what have you got there? I didn't see that coming. Now as soon as that guy hits the field, you're going to go for the combo of your generic Copernicus and Ragnarok setting the scales. You're then going to use the Pendulum Summoning and you're going to get Copernicus back to the field. It's going to trigger that Ragnarok and you're going to bring yourself back a Curse King Siegfried. Now, at this point, if you wanted to go for King Calamity, you have to go for a different monster. And I'll show you that as we go. But to start off with, we're just going to go for the generic, sending to the Banished Zone now your Crystron. That's going to set your Shooting Riser Dragon. Shooting Riser Dragon on your opponent's turn, obviously, is going to send that level 4 to the grave, bringing yourself that FA Dawn Dragster. Now if you don't want to go for Dragster, you can obviously go for the Berserker of the Tenyi, just depending on what you send to the grave. So for Berserker of the Tenyi, it's quite a nice one because you do have the option to get your Phantom Knights of Silent Boots in the grave, and you can then banish that to get extra monster, to get your equipped spell to your hand. Obviously that doesn't make too much sense here because you don't have the ability to go into PK as it stands. But next turn, if you did want to set your PK up, you do have your 2 level 8s, so you do have the option to do so. But we're just going to go for that Nighthowl to the grave now, and what that's going to do is set the level to 4. Once the level's to 4, you're going to then use Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. You're then going to Synchro Summon into Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, and you've got him on the field. Now obviously you've got your Omni Negate, you have your Monster Destruction, and you have your Spell and Trap Negate. Instead of going for Siegfried here on the special summon, if you wanted to go for a Calamity play, you could have simply gone for a Lamia. Now once Lamia's on the field, it's obviously not that impressive, but what you can do on the summon of Shooting Riser Dragon, you're going to send a level 4 to the grave. You have yourself a Hot Red Dragon, Archfiend, King Calamity. Now the only downside to this is you are vulnerable with your Copernicus and your Gilgamesh isn't very strong, alongside the fact that you don't have the multiple negates. But instead you have that entire board negate, so it is quite nice, and you do have the ability to actually bait out a few of your opponent's effects using your Borrowload Savage Dragon. Obviously at that point Cross Sheep is useless, so you don't have those extra negates for multiple turns. It's only a 1-turn negate. And it's also not enough to OTK your opponent. Now, using a different combo, you have the ability to actually OTK your opponent with your Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. However, that combo would then require your Samsara Dragon of Rebirth, as well as your Shooting Riser Dragon. So you're instead needing 2 cards, whereas this one only requires 1 card wasted in your extra deck, so it's not that much of a downside. If instead you wanted to get your Time Lord out, it's as simple as using Shooting Rising Dragon. You can just send to the grave your Savin Kepler. That's a level 1, it's going to minus the level to 6, then 6 plus the 4 is going to give you that Time Lord. Now you've got your Omni Negate, you've got your Spell and Trap Negate, and you've also got your Banisher. So it is quite nice, but obviously in terms of reacting to your opponent, you don't have the ability to do so as much on their turn. So that is a bit of a downside. Hope that's been an enlightening video though, guys. And obviously Nighthowl, I don't think is the best piece. I actually still believe the Motivating Captain has more potential in this deck. Although quite bricky, it does allow for more combos and more variations with actually utilizing his effects correctly, as opposed to just having to special summon it because it's a DD monster. Now, with that all being said, I hope you guys have had a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.